profile fresh, and really utilizing it to the best of your ability. And there's a lot of things you can do. I just went through a refresh again on my profile.
Oh, I'm forever. So the funny thing about, if I'm working with a client one-to-one, and quite often the easiest way to show them what I'm talking about is to pull my own profile up. And then I do that. And I honestly, the last 2 VIP clients I've worked with, I've said to them, oh, I need to update this actually. But it's like a cobbler never shoes his own children, do they? So I actually need to update my own profile. But in terms of what are the things, in 2020, Lynn, would you normally have done the workshops that you're doing, like the 12-week of training with these companies? Would you normally have done those face-to-face, or would you always have done them online?
It depends on where my clients are located.
Okay.
And there are exceptions. At the beginning of the year, I would do in-person training, which we would do over, some people would want a really intensive training.
Yeah.
And which is fine. That's an option. Yeah. I think that it's not as, honestly, I truly don't believe it's as productive.
It's not.
Sometimes companies want to do that. They want it in person, and, they're not going to pay for me to stay in, wherever, Cleveland, Ohio for 12 weeks.
Yes, in some gorgeous hotel, although it sounds quite nice to me.
So instead, we'll do the 2-day piece and go through everything in those 2 days. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot also that gets out of being in person. There is value to doing it in person.
Yeah.
And I know that I had a client who wanted me to do an in-person event in San Diego. And that was just in July. And I was just like going, I'm not traveling. There's no way you're getting me on some German-infested plane. And everything else. It was just like, I just won't do it. It's very, and it's how you say no, though. Of course, I'm being flippant about it right now, but to the client, I was gracious. I was, respectful.
Yeah.
And I understand why people feel like, and there is value in doing things in person. I can tell you from my corporate sales career, I was truly flying all over the country to close huge multi-million-dollar deals. Mm-hmm. So there is real value to being in person with people and being able to make that additional connection.
Yeah.
And, because when we do the 2-day sessions, which we haven't done now, we suspended those in March. Mm-hmm. They, and they include, a coffee corral in the morning. We do the lunch, and we have an afternoon break. And then usually we get together in the evening. Yeah. And everybody, those are optional. So people can not be at the coffee corral, but I also gamify it. Mm-hmm. And so the people who are there, they're like having fun, and people who like miss the lunch, and then they go like, oh, what did I miss?
Yeah. And I'm listening to you and I'm just thinking, please, by the middle of next year, can we get back to this kind of stuff? Because I miss being at events and seeing people.
Yeah, they really are. They're a lot of fun, and but and you do still get a lot out of it then and there. So I don't want to diminish it, but the virtual training is truly very effective, and it does allow me to provide global service.
Yeah, and I think as well. We are going to actually talk about LinkedIn a bit more, but it's interesting because I think that, for a lot of organizations and companies, they're probably looking at the amount of money they're saving in terms of travel spend and, time that people are, like literal time people are spending traveling to events and back when it's all virtual and you can be in. But then there's the companies who aren't necessarily used, like you and I are used to hopping on a Zoom call and doing a podcast and you finish and everything. But I've met, and hopefully it's not happening so much now, but early on, like March, April, May, so many people working in corporate were literally on calls back to back all day long. And that, like, how on earth could you cope with that? That'd be exhausting. But we're used to being online. I would not be booking in 4 Zoom calls back to back because I know it would drive me insane and be exhausted.
No, I put buffer zones in my schedule. Yeah. So I buffer things around our training sessions, 15 minutes before, 15 minutes after.
Yeah.
We've really found that that sweet spot of how many clients that we can take on in a month.
Yeah.
And that's, and so, if somebody wants to, they can't start for, the next month. So, you start to get a backlog.
That's good though. It's called a waiting list.
But you just develop a queue for that. And, it still works really effectively. And one of the things is with that you do have to get through your normal work. And I have to say, when I was traveling around, I could take all day to fly somewhere, and I mean, sometimes it was like a killer thing, especially international trips.
Yeah.
And because it takes a bit to, sort of recoup from that. Then I had work that I had to get done. And there's only so much work you can do on a plane.
I know. I've been on planes and you can see somebody sitting there with their laptop and they're working away. And I think, yeah, okay, fair enough. But oh my goodness, after 2 hours, you just think, okay, just put it away now. Have a glass of wine, get your pillow and put your mask on, go to sleep.
Yeah, it can be really hard. And so I would always plan my day to, same thing on a trip, like, get certain things done. And then I would also plan to do some things like maybe some industry reading, things like that I'd already have planned. And then I'd also do something for myself, so read a book of my own, watch a movie or something I had loaded up onto my iPhone. So all those things that you could do. And of course that changed over time. Back when dinosaurs roamed the earth, I had the separate little itty bitty video. What was that? It was a video iPod, so that
my goodness.
Remember you had to carry like 3 devices. When that iPhone came out, I was so happy.
I remember I had a CD Walkman, which doesn't even make sense because it's a Walkman, doesn't it?
I know.
Anyway, you carted it about and you played your CDs in it. And I just thought this is the business. This is when I was a teenager. And young people now listen to this going, what age are these two? But anyway, in terms of sales on LinkedIn, I mean, we touched on this, Lynn, the number of people that come to me, and it's interesting. I don't feel that I get these too much. Thank goodness. I would say it's not that frequent that I get these messages now. Maybe people look at my LinkedIn profile and realize it's a nonsense or a waste of time, or maybe they're just going for people who work in large corporations. But yes, they connect with you and they straight away just send you a sales message, and it just turns everybody off. And what baffles me is how many of these do they send that they actually get anywhere with anybody? I mean, they have got to be getting some success somewhere, or they wouldn't keep doing it.
Yeah. So I first of all, the statistics are out there. Something like 92% of decision makers don't respond to cold calls. And that includes cold calls via LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And what they're actually doing is they're squandering their leads.
Yes.
Because they're not spending the time to nurture those leads and develop them. Yeah. So when back in, the corporate world, that would be like, selling a huge program to Costco, which I did, and just going in and say, "Oh, just sign on the dotted line," Yeah. And then it's like, "Oh, well, they didn't close. Move on to the next one."
Yeah.
That was a multi-million-dollar deal, and it took at least, in corporate world and that kind of speak, it takes a long time. It had to take at least 9 months to close that deal, which is really every industry is different, and there were some deals that would take a year and a half or 2 years, so, lots of stakeholders. Anyway, we don't need to get into that. I mean, it's a sort of a different, everyone's animal, whatever they're living is going to be different. Yeah. But even if you are, you should be doing LinkedIn lead gen, on no matter how big a company you work for or how big a companies you sell to. But the key thing is that you want to take care of that lead. It's just like this little baby sprout, and you need to water it and care for it and let it grow before you start the hard sell, because that's just like taking a hoe to it and go pow,
Yes. Yeah.
Come on. And so what you've done is that's one of the number one problems with so many sales plans and sales teams as truly they're squandering their leads. And sometimes you can poison the well. So you can create a situation that, I mean, I've had people where they start hounding me, and they get my email and they get my phone number because I've accepted the connection, and I literally have to then start blocking them. And it's like, I've already told you no, you know?
Yeah.
And instead of, and it's like, so then you get to that, it's like, okay, I encountered that in sales where I would go in to start working with a client and they said, well, we had a sales rep from your company before and it was awful. You know, they, you know, whatever it was. And it's like, okay, so I've got a poisoned well.
Yeah.
You know, can I clean up this toxic waste? You know, and can I rebuild a relationship? And it's going to take a certain amount of time, and it's investment. Yes. And so you have to look at, you know, how bad is it that I'm going to have to try to take care of it? How big is the opportunity? You know, how well is this a really good fit for our organization? And then you go through that to make that determination, because in sales, we're investing. I mean, I'm all about relationship sales. I mean, if you haven't figured that out yet, it's about building those relationships for me that have lasted a lifetime. Yeah. And it's wonderful. It's wonderful. And you get referrals from those people.
I was about to say,
them up as a resource and just say, I've got a question. Can you help me out? And I'm there for you. And you build these relationships even long after you're no longer in that industry. You're no longer in doing that type of business. They're still there for you. These are people who become, your greater tribe that are there to help you and you to help them.
I mean, one of the things that happened to me this exact week is a perfect example of what you're talking about. So I am in a group of entrepreneurs, online business people, and I'm in there and I'm helping people, and people might tag me in a question about LinkedIn, and I'll just answer it because they're all very similar to me, and we all help each other out. You know, if I asked a question about what they did, they would do the same thing. So then somebody connected with me on LinkedIn and says, I think I know you from this group. And a client of mine has too much work on LinkedIn. Could I introduce you to her? And she introduced me, and she's connected to me. So she never needed my help. But because of my behavior in that group, she is referring somebody else to me, and it's going to turn into a nice, meaty piece of work. And that's what it's about. It's not about just going, right, I want to work with those 5 companies. I'm just going to chase them until they slam the door in my face. It's about exactly what you're saying. You know, you work with people and you help them out, and you be of service to them. And even if they don't have the need for you as a resource, they might have other people. But Lynn, when you're doing your training workshops, I'm sure you must come up against this question as well, whereas some people talk to me and they're just impatient. They want the sale right away and they don't want to spend time building relationships. And what do you say to those people?
Yeah. So, sales, first of all, I need to make sure that those are questions that I make sure that the management, the people who brought me in, like I said, the owners, the partners, that they believe in relationship sales. If they're just dialing for dollars, I know right off that we will never be a fit for my program.
Yes.
And, I wish them well, but my entire program is about building long-term sustainable growth through relationships and relationship sales. Because when you do that, of course, you also can get a lot more business from the companies you're already working with. There's a lot about
because they believe in that.
So there's just, and of course, and people move around and they go to new companies, et cetera, et cetera. Yes. So it's really, that's at the bottom. That's what it is. Yeah. Everything I do is about building relationships and really thinking like the customer and putting yourself in their shoes. Mm-hmm. So when you look at that, so one thing to come back to them is to say, okay, well, think about the customer's position and what they have. They have all this work that they have to get done every day. They have to prioritize things. Mm-hmm. Your pressure, your priorities are not theirs. And if you truly want to move the sales forward, and in fact, my sales training program is very effective at